Let's talk about sexual desire. For so many Christians, it's one of the most powerful and honestly one of the most misunderstood forces in their lives. It's often introduced with whispers of warning and this heavy, heavy sense of guilt. But what if that's not the whole story? And this really gets to the heart of a tension that so many of us feel. Is this deep, natural longing we have inside a sign of our brokenness? Something we have to fight and suppress? Or could it actually be a fundamental part of how we were made?
This is the big, provocative question we're diving into. It's an invitation to look at this old problem with fresh eyes and to ask if maybe, just maybe, we've misidentified the enemy this whole time.
All right, so let's get right down to it. Let's start with the most basic question of all. Where does this incredibly powerful force even come from? Is it an intruder that showed up after the fact, or is it part of the original design?
Really think about it for a second. If God made our bodies, our affections, our attractions, then doesn't it just stand to reason that desire itself has to belong to that created life? This whole perspective suggests that the real moral questions aren't about if we feel desire, but about what we do with it.
And you know what's really fascinating here? There's a strong consensus among these thinkers. You've got C.S. Lewis, a theologian, all the way to Kurt Thompson, a psychiatrist, and they all land in the same place. Desire is foundational. It's not some stain from the fall. As Christopher West says, it's a sign that we're made for communion, not a signal that we're inherently bad.
Okay, so if desire itself is fundamentally good, that brings up a really important question. What exactly is lust? This is where a lack of precision has caused so much confusion and pain. See, here's the key. Lust isn't just super strong desire. It's desire that's been, unplugged from its purpose. It's what happens when our longing gets cut off from love and respect and stops honoring the full God-given humanity of the other person.
And this chart just nails the difference, doesn't it? Healthy desire reaches out toward another person, seeking real connection. Lust, on the other hand, collapses inward. It turns a person into an object for my own appetite, and it doesn't lead to communion, it leads to isolation.
And it's the same deal when we talk about attraction versus objectification. Attraction is simply noticing beauty in another person. That is not a moral failure. Objectification is when that noticing turns into appropriating, when your thought process shifts from, wow, I see beauty, to, I want that for myself.
Okay, so what's the fallout when we lose these critical distinctions? Well, the whole conversation can turn from wisdom to shame, and that's when things get really toxic really fast.
I love how psychiatrist Kurt Thompson puts it. He draws this super important line in the sand. Guilt is about an action. I did something wrong. But shame is about identity. It says, something is wrong with me. And for way too long, many Christians have been shaped more by that kind of shame than by actual wise guidance.
And man, this is the devastating result, isn't it? Shame is a terrible healer. It doesn't fix anything. It just pushes desire into the shadows, into secrecy. And they're isolated from relationship and from wisdom. That desire often grows more distorted and more chaotic.
And C.S. Lewis saw this too. He points out that a shame-based approach doesn't actually create virtue. It just creates this cramped, fearful inner life where your conscience stops being a helpful guide and just becomes a constant, forceful accuser. So you have to ask, what's the actual fruit of all this repression? It's not holiness, it's secrecy and double lives. It's a fragmented self, self-hatred, hidden compulsions. It's a tragic irony, really. Trying to stamp out desire with shame often produces the very chaos it was meant to prevent.
So this forces us to pivot, right? If desire isn't just an enemy we have to defeat, and shame is definitely not the right weapon, then we have to ask a much better question. What on earth is it actually for? The goal here, then, is to stop looking at this as just something to clamp down on and to start building a positive vision of what healthy, rightly ordered desire is actually pointing toward. Because when you look at it this way, desire is so much more than just an appetite. It's a powerful signal that we are relational beings made for connection. It's an invitation to come out of our own isolation. It can even become a school where we learn how to practice self-giving love.
So this is what we're aiming for, a mature desire. Not a dead desire, but one that is neither ashamed of itself nor enslaved to itself. It's a desire that's alive, but it's not wild. It doesn't demand to run the whole show. It's integrated. guided by love and by truth.
Okay, that sounds great, but how do we actually get there? Let's talk about a more practical, healthier way forward. How can we find a language for all of this that actually helps people instead of harming them?
Well, the path forward seems to have 4 key ingredients. First, we've got to teach with precision. Stop lumping everything together. Second, we have to recover a vision of beauty. Focus on what desire is meant to be, not just its dangers. Third, we have to create safe communities where people can be honest without being shamed. And finally, we have to aim for wholeness, for integration of the self, not fragmentation.
I mean, just take a second and imagine what could change if we got this right. Homes could be less anxious places. Churches could be less evasive about this huge part of human life. Counseling could be about real discernment, not just managing guilt. Marriages could become so much more tender and honest.
So you see, this completely reframes the whole challenge, doesn't it? The challenge isn't to pretend desire doesn't exist. The real work is to learn how to speak about it, truthfully, wisely, and in a way that leads people toward wholeness, not toward more shame.
And maybe this is the most powerful idea to leave with. Holiness isn't a war against our humanity. It's the beautiful, difficult work of becoming more fully human, integrating every part of who we are, including our desires, into a life that's truly shaped by love, truth, and grace.